What's growing on, gardeners? On today's 2-minute garden tip, I'm going to show you the one thing every gardener should be doing to their tomato plants, yet many do this wrong. Whether you're growing an indeterminate, determinate, or dwarf tomato, you should always remove the leaves underneath the first flower cluster on your tomato plants. These are the initial leaves that push through the surface as the seed germinates and provide the initial photosynthesis for the plant to grow. But once your plant becomes a few months old, these lower leaves no longer serve any purpose. They don't shade the fruit, they don't collect any solar energy. All they do is drag on the bottom of the plant, and they become a magnet for pests and diseases because most tomatoes get diseases from water splashing from the soil, either from rainfall or irrigation, and then collecting on the undersides of the leaves. So for that reason, we need to prune them off. The problem that gardeners make is they prune off these leaves at the time of transplanting. So they are creating open wounds along the main stems of their plant, and then they're either burying those open wounds in the soil or they are leaving them exposed to the soil, and that creates entry wounds for diseases. You want to prune these lower leaves off at least the day before you transplant them, but several days before or even a week before or more is better. That way you give those open wounds time to heal over before you plant them and you expose them to the soil. This is the first wave of tomatoes that I will be planting this weekend, so I'm going to show you how to properly prune them. And it's really quite simple. All we are going to do is take a clean pair of pruning snips that we washed and sanitized, and we are going to remove the lower leaves that are underneath the first flower cluster. Now, the first flower cluster has not developed on this plant yet, but it will form right about here. So all of this can be pruned off. This plant is a much more advanced specimen. You can see the first flower cluster is actually right there. So we are going to remove all of this lower vegetation because that is going to provide no real benefit to the plant. That lower vegetation is just going to be a magnet for disease. So we can remove all of that. We want to keep all the vegetation above because this is a determinate variety and the suckers are going to produce the flowers, and then the leaves above that flower cluster are going to be how the plant photosynthesizes and also shades the fruit and protects it from sun scald. Let's give you one more demonstration here. We will prune off these lower branches because they don't really serve any purpose and they will drag on the ground. Remove that, remove that. Our first flower cluster looks a little bit higher on this plant, but this will give us more than enough height above the ground to prevent a splash zone. So that should be fine right like that. I'll give you one more example with a very straight, stout tomato plant. We're just going to remove that branch, that branch, that branch, and clean it up really nicely so we have a nice amount of main stem that we can bury if we so choose, but making sure that the next set of leaves are plenty high up that they won't be subject to splashing from irrigation or rainwater. All of my plants have been pruned to remove those useless lower leaves, and these plants will be ready for transplanting in a couple of days after those wounds heal up. And that's today's 2-minute garden tip. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.